What is up? We're a day late, but we're gonna get through some before the 90 days chat tonight, and episode 4 before the 90 days. We're gonna get into that, and Gina will be here to discuss with us tonight. Gina's here. We're a day late, dollar short, but we're gonna still jump. Is here. I believe Vanja's gonna be on. She's gonna be featured on before the 90 days, if I'm not mistaken. She has not been introduced yet, but I believe she will be. Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
good. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling better.
That's
I'm
good.
doing better.
I can hear it in the voice.
Yeah, I feel a little better. Not fully 100%. I still got some weird stuff going on in my voice and the throat, but I'm better than I was. Like I think I told you, yes, last week I spent like Tuesday, the entire Tuesday, like 24 hours in the bed.
Yeah, I think it was like
Oh
a
yeah.
72-hour thing for you, or like Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm like, yeah, we'll talk about Mama's boy at another date and time.
Yeah, which we still have to do, by the way. So well, I'll get with you on that. We still have to talk about that. But we're on before the 90 days, episode 4, and there's some key points that I want to get into on this because Brian had a scene where he came clean about how he ended up in the chair. But before that, we found out that I don't know the best way to say this. I don't want to say he necessarily lied about his age,
He
but
lied. He lied.
well, yeah, because she thought he was 43 when they met. They had known for each other for 2 years. He was 40. He should have been 45 when he arrived in Brazil. He's 51, which is like 3 years younger than her father. And I have a theory, right? So my theory is, you know how people go on dating apps and they exaggerate? Like, for instance, do you remember Scott? There was a screenshot of Scott on a dating app, and the age that he had on the dating app was not his actual age, it was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm beginning to realize that men and women do this a lot. They shave off years. So, because apparently when you're on a dating app, you have an age range of
Mm-hmm.
people that you're interested in. So, say for instance, if he's 51, a woman of Ingrid's age, 33, might not have an age range that goes all the way up to 51. So he still wants to talk to women younger. So he shaves off 5 or 6 years, which I don't know how acceptable this is because I'm not on a
No.
dating app and I don't lie about my age. So what is your initial thought? Because he made it seem like it wasn't that big a deal. So so say you're Ingrid and you're in the car and you find out that the guy you're in the car with is 51 and not 45. How do you feel?
Well, first, he's been lying about other things too and hiding other stuff as well, right? So that's the thing. Like, first it's how you got in the wheelchair. Now it's like your age. There's just so many red flags. And like, she doesn't know he's been engaged like 4 or 5 times to 4 or 5 different Brazilian chicks or whatnot. So there's some red flags there, right? Like, you can shave off like a year or two, but not like 6 or 7. Like, come on now, right? Like you're like shave off a year or two, like I said, but not 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 years. Like,
Yeah,
no, like it's too bad. Like, he should come to the realization, like, I need to put an acceptable age bracket that I fall under. And then for those that don't want to date within that bracket, that's fine. That's their loss, not mine. And that's how he should look at it. But
yeah. I think that for most women, I don't want to speak for all women. I actually have a really good friend of mine. She dates men 3 times her age and totally is into that. But for
I
most
know who you're
women,
talking
do
about. I
you?
know.
Yeah.
Is she on
You know who I'm talking about. She does. She likes men. She actually seeks out men that are in their 60s, 70s. That's just what she likes. But I do think that for a lot of women, finding out that the guy that they're dating is their dad's age when they never set out to date someone their dad's age is crazy.
Mhm.
Because she's sitting in the car and she's like, obviously he was should have been 11 or 12 years older than her, which may have been her. Hey, the diva speaks. That may have been her cutoff, right? Like, I know for some people they don't want to go too old or too young. They want to keep it in a bracket, and that's how the dating apps work. But when you're telling people, and again, my theory too, though, if he did have the age in there, incorrectly, because a lot of men do it, right? We see it all the time. I think Big Ed had an age in there that wasn't accurate either, because they want to get the bracket of the younger girls, the younger women, to reach out. But I think at some point you should come clean about your age. And I think that Brian, he might have a pattern of lying, you know, because you brought that up. And I think he has been married 4 times, right? He's been engaged a whole bunch of times. I'm beginning to think that none of this is coincidental. And also, none of this has to do with him being a quadriplegic. I think it all has to do with the fact that he lies to women. I think that's where we're seeing the pattern, because there's no reason to lie about the stuff that he's lying about. He could just be really honest. And I think honesty is the best policy, because if, like, actually tonight or last night, Ingrid said something really interesting. She said, if I would have known that he was a drug dealer and he had the past that he had, I might not have actually entertained this. This never would have happened. So if he would have been honest from the beginning, he could have saved the money for the plane ticket, right? He could have saved, like, because if it's not going to work out, just because you're omitting information to make things work, by the time your lie comes to light, because all lies come to light at some point, right? By the time your lie comes to light, you might have put in a lot of money and effort and time into something that was already going to blow up, you know, because you can't just lie to people and then expect them to be okay with it. Because he said something interesting as well. He was like, well, now I feel judged. And I was like, well, you should feel judged. You're a liar. And not only are you a liar, you're a former drug dealer, which I don't knock anybody's past, you know, but she does have the right
reason, right? But she, like you said, like, continue.
It's, well, right. It's more so that you're a liar. I don't care that you were a drug dealer. I don't care all the stuff you did in your past, whatever. Everybody has a past. It would be ridiculous for us to enter into relationships thinking that the person was born the day we met them, right? Like, everybody has a past of some sort. But when you omit that information, you don't give her the information to make decisions about it. Yes, she's going to react the way she reacted. And I thought that she reacted pretty normal for someone to be, you know, drop that type of information. For 2 years, y'all have been having all these conversations. It never crossed his mind to say, hey, by the way, you know, I was a victim of a hit, you know, like a drug hit. And I think that not wanting to feel judged is one thing, but also not giving someone the information needed to make an educated decision is another thing, because she even said it. She's like, I don't even know if I would have even entertained this relationship, because I'm not interested in somebody who was doing something like that. And she made a comment. She was like, well, if you never would have gotten in the chair, what if you would have never stopped selling drugs? And I think that's where he got really offended. But she has the right to say these things. This is her initial reaction to hearing this information for the first time in 2 years, right?
Yeah, he was basically throwing landmines at her, like, oh, I'm your dad's age. Oh, this. I was like a drug dealer. Oh, this. Oh, this. Like, how did I don't know what he anticipated her initial reaction would be from all this information being thrown at her.
I thought she reacted well. I thought that it was normal for her to react that way, and I felt like him being offended and upset was kind of irrelevant, because I always tell people, you can't be the victim in a situation you created. He created this situation by not being honest. He could have given her this information ahead of time, and she could have had time to think about it, contemplate it, decide whether or not she accepted it or not, but he didn't. He decided, you know, I'm going to lie to her as long as it takes till I'm right in front of her, and then it's harder for her to reject me because I'll be right in front of her. And I hate to say this, but I feel like he feels that he can get away with more because he's in a wheelchair. Do you get that vibe? Like, I feel like he doesn't like when people are mean or judge him, and he uses, like, well, you should be more understanding of my situation. But being a liar has nothing to do with your legs or your arms or your limbs or a wheelchair. Being a liar is just a liar, you know?
I think he plays the sympathy card, maybe, to get his way. And I think I mentioned that in the last time, right? So to see how much he can get away with, right? So how, like, without crossing any boundaries, like, or without making someone uncomfortable.
Well,
so
using his situation to keep people from judging him from being a liar, I think it's unfair. You know, I think it's unfair. And when you withhold information, and I think we've had this conversation on this podcast before, omitting information is still lying. Because, again, people make decisions based on the information given. So if you don't give them any information and they're making a blindfold decision, they could have made a different decision had you have given them the better version of information for them to move forward. So it's still a lie, right? Like, not telling people things is lying to them, because we would make different decisions if we were given all of the information ahead of time. And I think
It's
that
not even like a white lie, like how you tell kids, like, oh yeah, Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairies. It's not even a white lie. It's a like, it's a landmine lie. Like,
right.
no, like
It's
it's
the
not
type
even a
of
white
lie.
lie.
It's the type of lie where somebody might just stop talking to you altogether. Like, that's not a, you know, if you find out, oh, he's 46, not 45. So why lie? It's a stupid lie, but it's not, oh my God, I'm gonna block you on all platforms and we're never gonna have a conversation.
Exactly.
Right. But,
Exactly.
you know, finding out he's 6 years older, finding out that he, you know, his past is what got him into the chair and stuff. Like, I don't feel like, I wouldn't judge him based on his past. I would judge him based on the fact that he just wasn't honest.
And
I want to make that, clear.
and I think the fact, like, she has to think about, like, I think someone said in the comments, like, as well, like, she's at risk. I think it was. Yeah, she's at risk. Like, what if his past comes back? And this person makes a really good point. What if his past does come back?
That's true.
Right upon him, right? And she's got kids, right?
That's
Her
true.
first priority is going to be her kids.
So a mob hit, right? Like a gang hit, those are very dangerous because they go after your whole family. They don't forgive and they don't forget. So, and it doesn't matter how many years go by, they don't forget anything. If they've been looking for you for 20 years and they find you, they're going to find you and they're going to do something horrible.
Two things that happen. Either what, like, how the situation happened with the hit is either you were doing too much of your own supply, we all know that, or you're ripping on, you were taking a lot of the cut. Well, so it's either one. You do not get, like, shot at or whatnot if you're a good dealer, right? Like, if you listen and you give all the money, you do not, like, they like you. But if you start screwing them over, oh, they don't like you. So, like, watching so many, like, my favorite movies are all mob movies, like, Goodfellas, Casino, like, yeah. Well, Mob Week is my favorite week. So I've seen it all. Like,
he
I analyze it all.
Seem like the mob hit was taken out by his ex-wife. This is how he's making it seem. And again, it's hard to know when he's telling the truth and when he's not, right? Because the whole time we've known him and seen him on the show, he lies. So he's telling a version of the story, but we don't know how accurate that version of the story is, because he's like, oh, I met another woman and I wasn't in love with my wife anymore, so I had an affair with this other woman, and then my wife ordered the hit. Possible, but it does when someone orders a hit on you and you're a drug lord, it's usually involving drugs, right? Yeah. Like, that's usually what it involves. It doesn't necessarily involve infidelity. And, you know, and if she really wanted to get back at him, she could have had some of her guys jump him. You know, like, you don't typically kill someone or end someone over infidelity, you know, especially in that. So again, we don't know what version of the story is the truth. We don't, because with Brian, there's so many different versions of everything, you know, and he only releases just enough information at a time to where people can't judge him and people can't make any vast decisions or close decisions about who he is. So I don't know what's going on with this dude. I just think that when I saw Ingrid in the car, and I was just thinking, she's probably thinking, like, if I was to jump out of this car, would I get hurt? You know, like, I felt like she was like, I just want to get out of this situation. Because it's like, you realize that you are in a bad situation. She didn't do anything wrong to get in that bad situation. He lied to her. You know, like, he put her in a situation that she doesn't want to be in. And you could see it was very clear. She was very, very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. And it's almost like she's in a relationship with a complete stranger. Right? Like, they've been talking.
She doesn't know him. She doesn't know him.
Right. For 2 years, they've been talking, but she doesn't have any idea who this person is. Like, I just saw the uncomfortable, like, in the car. I was like, she's probably contemplating, like, next red light, drop and roll. You know, just be gone. Never talk to this person again, because there's no reason why she should have to put up. But this many bombs dropped on her in one day. That's just not fair for anybody. We all need time to unpack things. But yeah, and he has no respect for her in processing information. Okay, so I want to talk about $46 for a 20-day. So I want wanted to talk about it because Lauren admitted that he got to the Philippines with $46 American in cash, and then he was going to get a paycheck directly deposited at some point during the 20 days that he was there. So, what is your opinion of that? Because I probably spend more than $46 on coffee and lunch. So, in one day. So, like, what is your opinion of going to a foreign country for 20 days and your spending money is $46? Like, what grown adult person does something like that?
I budget myself between, and this, when I go to Europe, I'm not even going to like the Philippines or Asia. Okay, it's the euros. Or if I go to the US, I'm like budgeting like, okay, I'm gonna spend between $100 to $200 a day.
Right.
If I don't, I don't. Right, but that
But
is
you
100 to
gotta
200.
be you gotta be above, not below,
Exactly.
right? Like, because my first thought would be, I'm in a foreign country, I don't have any money. What if I am in a jam? I don't have any money to get home. I don't have any money to eat. Like, there's just so many things that would go through my mind, and I
Like,
just wouldn't get on the plane. Like, if I don't think I can afford to go on the trip, I won't go on the trip.
well, he
The
probably
last
didn't
thing
pay for that trip. Somebody else probably paid for that trip, like
so
his friend that.
So he was on a Twitter space the other week, and he said that his grandmother passed away, and he got $2,000, and I guess settlement or insurance, and that's what he used to pay for the ticket and the hotel. So I'm assuming the $46 was whatever
Left
was left over.
over.
So what do you think was his plan? Do you think he got over there and he was gonna be like, oh well, I'm out of money, so Faith, you should pay for everything now? Do you think that was his plan all along?
Yes, exactly. Because Faith is a hustler. She will work 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different jobs just to like have a roof over her head, have food, have clothing. Like she hustles for her money and works very hard for her money. So he thought it was a meal ticket, and she can be his sugar mama, like, or her, like, you know what I mean, like treat him like. That's why he's spending his money in the market. Like, well, once I'm out, once I'm tapped out, well, then you have to pay for
Yeah.
it. You have to support me, right? So he's not giving no F's, right? And I think he's waiting for, I think the paycheck was from TJ Maxx or something like that, where he works
Yeah.
at, wherever he works at. Honestly, who, like, I worked for their sister company, really, like in Canada. Like, like, you can't make that much,
Well, no,
right? And most of their employees are
talking.
part-time, not even full-time. Most of their
We're
employees are
probably
part-time.
talking a couple of $100 at most,
Exactly.
and that's all
After
that he's gonna.
taxes are deducted, right? So I don't know. I think that's his mind frame. Like, I'm gonna spend all my money on her. I'm gonna make me look like I'm like this fantastic person, even though he knows, like, she knows the situation now, like he's broke ass.
Well, why
But
do you think that she isn't telling him to leave? Because when I feel like there's enough information now for her to realize that this is a bad situation. When he told her mom that he was homeless in the US, he doesn't make enough money to live, and he lied to Faith, because Faith said that her dream was always to move in the US, get a good job, work hard, make a good life for herself. He went along with it until he landed into the Philippines, and then he decided to tell a different story.
I think she's gonna call it off because, like, it's enough. Like, he told her who is like her mom, her aunt or whatnot, who works with her. Like, he's homeless. He's got this much money. Like, she's seeing it. I think she's seeing it. Like, this is not gonna fly. And then in next week's episode, he tells her like he's not faithful to her, basically.
Well, he kind of has to tell her
Mhm.
because
Well, because he's got an STD.
he's got gonorrhea,
So,
and it's impossible to get gonorrhea unless you've been having sex with someone who had gonorrhea.
exactly.
Right?
So I think she's like, pardon me, we weren't faithfully, like, she's gonna be like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with it. Hopefully she'll be like, I'm done. There's nothing you can do. Like, she doesn't seem like the person to want an open relationship, because there's, like, she doesn't seem like that person. So she's gonna be like,
Well,
this dude ain't worth it. The States ain't worth
made
it.
it. she made it clear that her past relationships were purely sexual. There was no feelings and no love. So that's why she was drawn to him, because he made it seem like he wanted a monogamous, serious relationship, which is something that she never got. She said that it's usually men that didn't want to be seen with a lady boy, or didn't want to commit, didn't want to make it official. So she's looking for something serious, and I think he's just another one of the guys that she's used to dating.
Exactly.
You know, like it's not that he's embarrassed of it, but he's more so he wants to get around.
Exactly.
You know, and honestly, that's a scary thing. Getting around, if that gets you gonorrhea, I'm okay. I don't want to get around. You know, like I don't want to go out there and play the whole
I don't want to
field.
ride that bike. Thank you.
No, that is. So a lot of people online are mad because they said that before he got the text message that he had gonorrhea, they said that, well, he said on camera, he was like, I figured something was going on because there was discharge.
Yeah.
So what people are mad about, they were like, that night before, he was hoping to be intimate with Faith. You remember that? He was thinking, like, oh, hopefully things will go to the next level. And they were like, well, why were you trying to have sex with her if you knew that there was discharge? Obviously, you might not have known it was gonorrhea, but you know that it's not supposed to be discharging liquid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would you put her at risk not knowing what was going on down there? And a lot of people are like pissed off because they were like, you knew something was going on. You're not a doctor, but you know if you look down there and something like that is going on, you know, common sense will tell you, hey, there's something going on here. I shouldn't be having sex with anybody until I know what's going on, right?
We already know he doesn't have much of it, so he doesn't already have much common sense. So
I just think that it's scary because there's a lot of people in the world that end up with STDs because of this type of situation. They didn't do anything wrong. They thought they were in a relationship with one person, and that person happened to be in a relationship with a lot of people, and then that person ends up like Faith, could end up with gonorrhea through no fault of her own, right? Because she thought she was in a monogamous relationship and she wasn't. And it's just scary. And it's like this dating world now is just hella scary.
Yeah, well, he is a walking STD, basically, or an STI. Like, he's
yeah, and he's homeless too. And I'm like, I don't want to like stigmatize anything because, you know, there's different forms of homelessness and there's different situations that put people in homelessness. But I think a lot of people online were like, he's homeless because it's by choice, because he prefers couch surfing over having his own place. Right. Like, I don't think that it's the situation where Lauren can't afford a place of his own. It's just cheaper and easier for him to not have a place of his own.
Exactly.
So I don't think that we should really put him in the homelessness category, because I don't think this man has ever slept outside.
No,
right?
He's just lazy. He's just
right.
lazy.
There's a huge difference. There are people who have gone through a hard time, literally sleep outside, and they are going through a really, really serious situation. And then there's Lauren, who is working several jobs, you know, and he has a way to come up with money to go on trips to the Philippines. The first thing I said was, how does a homeless person get on a plane to the Philippines? Like, that would be completely impossible to do for the typical homeless person who has no money. They don't even know where their next meal is usually coming from. But you mean to tell me that this homeless man has enough money to get on an airplane to go to the Philippines? I don't like that he's using that term, because there are people who are really struggling who are homeless. And again, I think that he uses that term to get sympathy out of people.
Yeah, he uses it loosely, right? A lot of people suffer with mental health issues and whatnot, and they've fallen through hard times, whatever it might be. People who are actually on the street and, like you said, and don't know where their next meal are coming from is homeless. He's just a lazy bum. I want to say he's just a lazy person who doesn't want to work because of so many reasons, or can't, or refuses to work at X amount of hours because he doesn't want to pay child support. He's just Lauren.
Yeah.
I can't. I got my friend started watching it too. One of my best friends started watching it. She's just like, I'm like, you have to see this all. You have to see this. She's just like, oh my God.
It's crazy. Yeah, people are saying he's worse than Cal Gordy. I'm seeing the comments. They're like, he's worse than Cal Gordy. And I was like, I didn't think it was possible to find somebody worse than Cal Gordy, but it's getting there. Also, Joda says he also somehow knew how to get a passport. Right. Homeless people
Right?
are not usually
They
going
don't
to a
have
passport office.
identification
Right.
at all,
So
probably.
yeah, he's using that term, and I don't believe that term applies to him. Right?
No.
Like he might be displaced. He might not have a house of his own, which would make him displaced. But he's definitely not a homeless person. Homeless people
You might
don't
not
go and
have
apply.
a stable home, like, which would be different because you're basically couch surfing. Your living situation isn't stable, basically, not you're homeless.
Which probably, honestly, I think that's probably by choice.
Yeah.
I can't prove it. I can't prove
Oh,
it, but I think that all of the stuff he's doing is by choice because we know that there's a child support issue that he doesn't want to be a part of, and you know, the more things that you have, the more likely the judge is gonna say, okay, you can afford to pay.
yeah.
So I think having his own place would make the judge feel like he can pay more money. So I think it's all by choice. But I want to talk about our
Yeah.
newest addition to the season, Niles from Alabama, and he's on the spectrum, but he's in love with a woman who isn't from. Where is she from? She's from
Guyana
Ghana,
or
right?
Ghana.
She's
Yeah.
Ghana. She's really beautiful, and you know, I was watching this story, and I love him. I think he's great. I think, you know, I saw him at his job. He does so well. He's very high functioning. He does a really good job. I just when I see people that love really hard like Niles, I always just get worried, you know, because I don't know what Matilda's intentions are with him. And it just makes me really worried because people that love the way that he loves can be taken advantage of. So
Yeah.
he said that he spent a lot of money so far, like $3,000 on this trip. And he also needs a bride price. He also has to work on paying for the visa, the K1. And I'm just worried that he's going to put a lot more into this because he loves harder than the relationship is strong, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know what they're like. I haven't seen them interacting together. I've seen like one FaceTime call on the show,
Mhm.
which it seemed fine, but he was really scared of her. He was scared to tell her that he didn't want to do the wedding right away. And I feel like when your communication, there's fear in your communication, that's a red flag to me because you should be able to talk to each other.
I think it's part of like the spectrum and the ADHD thing. Like, that's why he has a fear to maybe discuss it with her. But I'm not a psychologist. I don't specialize in that. It's just,
Right.
I'm just thinking outside of the box to why, because he did back up some of like why he's so repetitive or why he does certain things as well. I do like him. I have a soft spot for him. He kind of like with the falling hard part reminds me of Tyree. I don't know, like just falling hard, and it's just like, oh, I don't want you to get hurt. Please don't get hurt. Like, don't get hurt. But like at the same time, when he goes there, everything's going to be a new concept to him, and her friends don't even understand the whole spectrum thing, right? So,
Right.
like, I'm just in fear, like, the family's just, you know what? I hope this doesn't happen, but I hope he doesn't pay the dowry or whatnot, and then the family calls it off.
Oh,
If he
okay.
because like it's just like what are you doing? Like why are
Yeah.
you? Yeah, I really hope that doesn't happen because he seems like such a like he seems like such a teddy bear and a good person. I really hope that doesn't
Yeah.
happen to him.
I really want the best for him. I worry, and I also thought it was weird that no one was going with him on the trip because you know Vea is bringing her ex Rory with her, but Niles didn't say he was bringing anyone to Ghana with him, which I worry. You know, I just want him to be okay, and I know that he would disagree with me. I know a lot of people on the spectrum, they want to be as independent as possible,
Of course.
but I feel like he's very impressionable and he's easy to he's, you know, his situation makes it easy for him to believe things,
Or to
you know,
get
like me and you, somebody with right, if someone said something to me and you, we would question it. But when someone who is in love and they on the spectrum and they see what they want, they might not see the things that we see. And I just worry. I'm like, I just don't want him to go over there, get taken advantage of, you know?
mm-hmm.
And again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about Matilda. I didn't see enough to judge her
Yeah.
or whatever. That might not be the case at all. It's just interesting that she's pushing them to get married the second they meet. You know, that's a little strange.
Or by the end of the trip, I think she said
The
by the
very
end of the trip.
first trip that they ever met, though, like it's,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't, they, that's when you get engaged, right? And even being, that's too soon. But that's when you get engaged. That's not when you get married. So I just, we're gonna be watching Niles, but we gotta protect Niles, right? We gotta make sure that Niles is
Well, we
okay
can't
because
do anything because it's already been filmed. We can't
I
protect
know
him.
we can't protect him, and it's just hard because okay, so Thea is going to see Sunny. We saw her on this episode, and Rory arrived. We got a lot of info on Thea
Yeah.
though yesterday. So apparently, she has a brother who was unfortunately killed by law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
and then she has a mom who is homeless right now. So her life, holy crap, is very, very, very intense. There's a lot of serious things going on with her. I never would have thought that based on the first time when we met her on the episode, but when she started getting into the deep details of her life, it really shocked
And
me.
she miscarried, so it's just like, oh, no wonder you don't look like you're 20. Like,
It
no one, you can say you're 27, but no one, like, you've
she
crossed a lot of
yeah,
paths.
all of this happened in a short amount of time. Like when she lost her brother, she was pregnant, and that situation is what caused her to lose her baby. Can you imagine losing your brother, which was her best friend? Because let's not forget, with her mom's situation, her and her brother ended up in foster care a lot. Let's not forget how this stemmed. So the person the only constant person in her life was her brother. She loses him, and then within months of losing him, she loses the baby. And
Yeah.
I don't even know how she's functioning, right? Like that's a lot to deal with, and it makes sense now why she hasn't let go of Rory, because
Yeah.
like you say, when two people go through a horrible traumatic situation together, you're bonded for life. It's trauma
Yeah.
bond. you
It'll either push you apart, like she said it did. It pushed them apart, but like pushed them apart like romantically, but brought them together in the friendship. But still, there are borderlines, there are guidelines. You ain't bring no ex to South
well,
Africa.
not
Like,
to be a Muslim man, because Muslim men, they don't even really like their women around men in general, period.
exactly.
So you don't want to bring an ex, especially an ex that you were gonna have a baby with. So
Exactly.
it not just an ex, because you gotta love the person a little more than a little, to have a baby with them. So this was a pretty serious relationship. So again, with him being a Muslim man and his family being super, super Muslim, they're gonna want to know, why did you bring your ex, to meet us? That's the last person that you should have brought. So, but she made it really clear though, because of her religious family that adopted her, she's not converting for him. And I don't know how long this is going to last, because he made it pretty clear on the FaceTime call that she needs to convert. It's his responsibility as a boyfriend, a fiance, to make sure that she converts. So I don't really know how far this is going to go, because no Muslim man really will marry a woman without her committing to converting, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like a number 101 part of the deal. You have to at least convert, because I think in their religion, it's against their religion to be married to a person that isn't a part of their religion. I'm pretty sure you can't even really fraternize or be friends with people that aren't really a part of your religion.
No, I think you can, because my cousin, her husband's Muslim, and she was raised Catholic, right? So
Uh-huh.
I think you can, and they've made it work, and they made it mesh well, and they've been married for like 15, 20 years, basically. So
Is
they've
he
made it
still
work.
is he still close with his family?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
See, this is interesting because we only hear the
yeah.
extreme version of the
No,
story.
they dated for years. They were high school sweethearts, right? Like they dated for years, like basically, and you can raise your children. You can have compromises, right? Like she doesn't wear a hijab. Like she doesn't. I don't haven't
Well,
seen her in a minute. She doesn't cover her hair. Like I'm just saying, like I guess it just depends on the severity of how strict, right? Like he's such a sweetheart. He's such a nice guy, right? Like he's attended like Catholic weddings. Like he's such a nice guy.
wow.
And basically, yeah, like that's why I said not every Muslim is the same. But from what TLC portrays, they're extremists, right? So he was raised here. He's very westernized, right? So that could be part of it too, because we're seeing foreign, right? Like foreign Muslim men, right? So that's the
That's true.
thing.
That's true. I think in other countries they are a little more devout
Mm-hmm.
and strict. You know, in the U.S. we tend to be a little more laxed with traditions. You notice that? Like well, you're not in the U.S., but
Yeah.
in this part,
Yeah, it's close to
in this
that.
neck of the woods, we're not as strict as most people are.
Yeah.
And you know, and Vaya said that Sonny isn't as devout. You know, he drinks and he goes to
Yeah.
clubs. And he
But it's
does,
the
but
same with, like, I made the observation too in Turkey as well. They're a Muslim country as well. But they drink, they party, right? So it's just like, but like I said, they're not as hardcore though, right? So,
yeah. So, oh, I want to talk about this Tiger Lily and Adnan wedding reception. So there was something that happened. Obviously, we knew that he didn't like her being around other men. We learned that
mhm.
last week. But he hired some videographers, which were two or three men that showed up, and they were literally going to be filming her while she got ready and got dressed and everything. And then he left. And then the confusing part was she knew her hair guy for 20 years, and he didn't want this woman or this man around his wife alone. But these videographers she had known for less than 5 seconds, and they were allowed to go in the bathroom and film her getting ready.
Yeah.
So it's really confusing to me, and I'm trying to really understand. But even Tiger Lily said it. She was like, "Well, maybe since he hired them, the rules don't apply for this situation. They only apply." But how does that make sense? None of
I
it makes
don't
sense.
know. I would have asked him. I would have sent a message to him. So you can't have a guy touching my fake hair, and my hairdresser that I've known for 20 years can't do my hair. But you have these video. It doesn't make any sense. I would ask for clarification. Like, did you know these videographers were going to be men? Like, I would just ask for clarification. Like,
Well, he asked for verification when she hired the hairdresser from the salon. He was like, "Why would you hire a man and not a woman?" So why didn't he hire a woman videographer and not a man? You know, like I don't understand. But again, a lot of times when it comes to the Muslim religion, the rules usually apply to the woman, right? If the
exactly.
woman does it, it's wrong. But as long as the man did it, no one, they don't really have anyone to answer to. I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's how I want to say it. Like, who's gonna question what he did?
And maybe it's the whole, like, they're not touching her. They're just
Well, but they would
filming. And,
still
like,
be,
think about it, production too, with TLC, with production. There's got
yeah,
to
they're gonna
be a
be.
mix of male and female production, right? They're still filming. I'm
I
sure
just,
there's men and women in the mix.
you know what's funny? This situation reminds me of Angela and Michael because remember, Angela made Michael quit his job because he had to take a ferry boat or something. He had to get to work. There were women along the way, and she was like, "You can't be around other women. You're gonna cheat on me or whatever." And it reminded me of that because he doesn't want Tiger Lily to be around other men, and I'm pretty sure her hairdresser is not interested in her.
Yeah,
They've been friends for 20
no,
years.
I
He's
don't
probably
think.
not interested in women at all. There's absolutely nothing to be worried
Or
about. But
like
the
the
idea,
whole Mary and Brandon situation when Brandon was on the way on the flight. Like she's freaking
oh
out
yeah, yeah,
with the woman, like an older lady, like
who
on the plane.
did not want him at all, right? Like
Yeah.
didn't want, wasn't even interested. Like how many times have you gotten on the plane and you sat next to the person and you're just like, like,
And
this
I
is
wish it
gonna,
was an empty seat. Like
right?
how many times?
Like this is gonna be a long flight. You know, like that's exactly. You're just like, oh, okay. And it's I don't understand how people think that people are going to be able to go through life and avoid the opposite sex.
Yeah.
That go through life because it's impossible. You literally you go to the DMV, you go to a restaurant, you go to the grocery store. There's men and women everywhere, trans people, like whatever. There's every type of everybody everywhere, and it's like, how do you feel that you married her, so now she can only interact with you and other women? How do you control the environment to where only other women are going to be
Mm.
around? You know, like because you can't be everywhere at the same time. You can't be everywhere at once. So if she goes to the market because y'all need food, is she supposed to run back home because there was a man at the market? You know, it just sounds
Yeah.
crazy.
I think
Right?
you I think you go in like because from the scenes that they show on TLC, I think the women travel like kind of go together to the market. Like they're like a group of friends or moms or whatever will all go together to
Oh,
the market. If you see in the backgrounds, like how they do it, like in the background,
so
you
the
can see
women
them all
travel
walking together in
together.
hijabs. Yeah, they
Yeah.
all go together.
Well, she doesn't know anybody yet,
Exactly.
you know, because, and she's not going to be living there. He's obviously going to be coming here. But, you know, while she is there, what is she supposed to do when you don't know anyone? You know, how are you supposed to travel in packs when you don't know anyone to put in your pack? And it's just weird to me because he said earlier, like a week ago, he's like, I don't expect you to wear a hijab. I don't expect you to convert. But right after they got,
That
right? Right after they got married, he started holding her accountable to the religion that he didn't expect her to convert to. Because honestly, she's not a Muslim.
no.
Just because she married a Muslim does not make her a Muslim, right? She did not convert. She did not go through the ceremony. She didn't. She never agreed to anything. So his words are really interesting because most of the men that we meet on the show are pretty adamant and upfront before they get married, like, well, you're going to need to do this and convert. He made it seem like everything was fine, and then after they took the vow, that's when he was like, oh, well, you know, you can't have this guy touching your hair, and you can't have this, and you can't do this. And it's like, well, you want to hold her accountable to the religion, that means you want her to convert,
Well,
right?
remember what her friend said too, like she like just feels like this guy's controlling you too. Like you divorced your ex because he was controlling, and she's just making excuses for him like, "Oh, but this is different. Like
In
it's
what
more there's more love."
way?
Oh,
Right. In what way? Like, how is controlling different? Because she's like, oh, it's like, I feel like I'm the most important person in his life. You could be, but, you know, the most important person in your life should want you to live your life freely,
hmm
you know, and they shouldn't want to control you. And I think that Shekinah is in the same type of situation where she's torn between wanting to live her life and also wanting to be controlled to some extent. I do think that Tiger Lily and Shekinah want to be controlled to a certain extent. I don't know where they draw the line though.
hmm
I don't know how you would draw the line, right? Because if a man's telling you what to eat, how much you should weigh, he's telling you how to do your nose job, you know, I think the line has already been crossed.
yeah,
And I think that in Tiger Lily's situation, she thought that she didn't like being controlled, obviously, from her last relationship. I think she does. To some extent,
and
she likes
something.
a man to be dominant towards her. Which, you know,
hmm
there's lots of women who are like that. There are men who want their women to be dominant towards them. So I'm not knocking anybody, but it's hard to I think the line becomes blurred when you want to be controlled, but you also want to have some freedom,
Freedom. Yeah,
because I think the line disappears and then you just end up in a controlling relationship with no freedom at all.
exactly.
It's just, I don't know. I think that their relationship, they don't seem compatible. The only way they're compatible is if Adnan has way more money than I think he does. Because
Yeah.
I was doing the math, and Tiger Lily said that she's had a hairdresser, like a beauty hair person, for 20 plus years. So
She's
this
got
woman is
glam
not,
squad. She
yeah,
has a
for
glam
20
squad.
years. So this woman has not done her hair in 20 years. So I'm trying to understand how this is going to work, because her ex-husband was a millionaire, and he was clearly, you know, it took 4 years to get that settlement. So she was getting quite a bit of money. But now that she's married, any spousal support is going to stop, and she's only going to get child support. So
Mhm.
unless Adnan has way more money than I think he does, I don't see how this is going to
I
work.
don't, I don't see how that's possible, like him having more money. And did you hear that her friend was just like, "Oh, so how was like your your wedding night?" Like, "Oh, it was." She's like, "Oh yeah, it was great. It was fantastic." And like, it's obviously questionable if it was fantastic and great. You had a great time on your wedding night. Then it's obviously like he's not as pure as you think he might be, in my opinion. Because most of them don't know what they're doing if you're
Well,
as pure as
she
you.
didn't question what he knew. And she was like, oh, well, I think it's like a caveman thing. Men just know. And I'm like, no, men
No.
and women are born pretty naive.
Yeah.
You know, they have to learn You know, no, you don't just put a man and a woman together and they figure it out. You know,
Yeah,
not if they're both virgins. Somebody has to have been down that road before, right?
exactly.
Like before GPSs, you know, if nobody had ever been to the place, we needed a map.
A map
Okay,
plus,
we
map
needed a
plus.
map. Okay, so you can't just put us both in the car and say go to Texas, and neither of us have been to Texas before. We would need a map, a step-by-step guide of how we're gonna get that done. And I think sex is no different. You
Exactly.
know, for two virgins, you need a step-by-step guide of what happens. You know, like I think she's under the impression because you know animals figure out how to reproduce on their own, right? They can't talk that we know of, they can't communicate that we know of, and they figure it out. But we're not animals. People are not animals. People are not born, you know, because think about it, our babies in this world are born, they don't know how to go to the bathroom on their own, they don't know how to survive without being
No.
fed. You know, we have to learn everything. We can't walk, we can't, if you just take a baby and put it in a room and nobody feeds it, it's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they have to be taught everything. So I think that her level of naive for me has to be an act, right? She's
Exactly.
not really that naive, is she? Hey, Tina.
Yes, I've been saying it from the beginning. He ain't no virgin. Like, no, no, no. Contrary to what you believe or want to believe or what he's told you, he ain't,
Well,
honey.
he's a model, and he cares a lot about the way he looks. Did you notice that
Quote
he had just
unquote
as big?
model.
Yeah, he had just as big of a glam squad, if not bigger, than Tiger Lily. I think that for somebody who cares about the way they look, and he said a couple of weeks ago, he was like, "Oh, women stop me on the street just to say how good looking I am and how beautiful I am."
But
I
I
was like,
thought
"That's not some."
women are not supposed to talk to men.
Well, he said that they stop him on the street. They stop him on the street. I
Not
think
his
that
kind of women, not Muslim women, probably because they can't talk to a man.
Well, no, clearly he's not attracted to Muslim women. That's how we got here,
Exactly.
right? That's how we got here.
Let's
It's
be
clearly
honest.
he has a type, and it's not a Muslim woman. He likes Americanized, you know, Northern women. We can tell that. What do you call it? Westernized. We call them Westernized, right? I think that's what we call them. But I definitely think that
North
him
American
North
women,
American,
basically.
North American. I think
Oh.
that him knowing so much about sex should have been a red flag for her because, again, if he wasn't a virgin, he could have just been honest. Again, we always just come back to this honesty thing. Just be
Mm-hmm.
honest. If you were a drug dealer, just say it. If you have been sleeping with a lot of different people before me, just say it. You know, like I don't know why people feel like they can lie
Just
and
tell me
get
your
away with it.
age. Just say it.
It's not hard to tell the truth, and
But
you don't even need to have a good memory if you just tell people the damn truth.
but to add to that age thing, wouldn't Ingrid go on his Facebook or try to? I guess no one could be detectives like Cara and Dee Dee and myself. Oh, we're like bloodhounds. We will find out anything and everything.
I mean,
Like we are bloodhounds. After 2 years of talking, wouldn't you put this guy on Facebook to see if his name would come up, or wouldn't he give you your his last name? And like usually people will have their full ages on there. I don't because I'm
I
smart,
think
but
that
I don't have my year on there. So, but that's because of different reasons. So not because I'm trying to hide my age.
I think women of all species should be the ones that do a lot more homework on men. Because let's be real, if we've watched enough Dateline episodes to know that women are in extreme danger when it comes to dating, right? Like women are in extreme danger. Men are weird creeps, weirdos, and they lie and they prey on women. So I mean, you're not wrong. In 2 years, she should have looked up something about this man just to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that there wasn't an axe murderer on his way to her house.
Mm-hmm. He
You know,
did
like she should
say
at least.
was like in the Special Olympics or whatever, so you can easily like go down
Oh
that
yeah,
rabbit hole.
he said he was on the American team.
Yeah, you
So
could
yeah, that's
easily go down that rabbit hole too, like and like tie two and two together. But again,
someone
no
said.
one.
I said women of all species. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Women of all people on the planet. I didn't mean species, but I just mean women in general. You know, like when it comes to dating, I'm not saying that men can't be in danger too and can't be hurt, but I've watched enough Dateline to know that we got to protect women better. You know, like we got to make sure. And people go on these dating apps and they lie and they lure women places. It's like I'm scared. I'm scared for women in general. You know, I saw a story somewhere online where it was like a video. A woman was approached by some guy, and he asked for her phone number. She said no. The guy punched her in the face. Why
Yeah,
can't
I'm
she
scared
just,
for mankind.
right?
I'm
Like,
very
I'm
scared for
just,
mankind.
it's so scary, and I'll never know what it's like to be a woman and just walk down the street and be in danger all the time. I'll never know what that's like, but I know that we really have to start doing more to protect women, especially in the dating world, because women are out there trying to find a person to spend the rest of their life with, and then there's just crazy weirdos out there trying to
Like,
hurt them, right?
yeah,
Like, it's
like
really
all the
scary.
90-day dumpsters, like everybody, you just see 90 Day and be like, no, no, like I'm doing everything I possibly can. If I'm on a dating app, which I'm not, like just to like spot check, do everything.
Maybe
Like
the dating apps should do background checks on
they
people. How
can't,
about that?
they
Wait,
can't.
they,
TLC doesn't even do it. Why do you expect a dating app to do
yeah,
it? Do your own
you're right.
research.
TLC, yeah. TLC has millions and millions of dollars and they don't do it. So yeah, you're right. That's asking a lot. And if they did, they'll probably start charging so much for the dating app you can't afford to use it. And then
Exactly.
yeah, and then it'll defeat
It's
the
not
purpose.
it's not accredited. That's the thing, right? If you want that, then you'll go through they have a Netflix show on it. A matchmaker. If
Oh
you
yeah, that's
want
true. You can hire a matchmaker, and you're right. She'll do like a financial
everything.
background check, a criminal background check, a educational background check. Yeah, but again, matchmakers are very expensive.
Exactly.
But quality sometimes is worth it when you're dating guys that are losers, or you're going through the dating pool and women are wasting their time. It might be worth it. It might be worth to weed
Might
out
be
all the
an investment.
weed out all the nonsense so you don't waste too much of your time with idiots. Because look at Lauren and Faith. If Faith would have looked into Lauren, he never would have made it to the Philippines. And who else? Again, Brian and Ingrid. Yeah, this is a lot of time that they're wasting with liars, right?
Yeah.
With liars and users. And at this point, I'm just worried about Faith's job because Lauren, I know he only has $46. So when he can't afford to stay in the hotel anymore, he's going to try to stay with her. And I guarantee you, it's against the rules of her job to have someone staying with her.
Yeah.
Because that
I
room,
can almost guarantee it as
yeah,
well, because if you're staying
that
in the
room is
hotel,
specifically, for her as an employee. Nobody can stay there, and that his broke ass is gonna be like, "Oh, I'll just stay with her," and then she's gonna lose her job.
yeah. Oh hell no! You can be homeless here. I need to go sleep outside.
He
So
can be
there you
homeless.
go.
He can be homeless in 2 countries, right?
Yeah.
He can be homeless in 2 countries.
You
If
can
that's what he
actually
believes.
say it, and like with no home, there you go. You can sleep outside under the bridge, or like go fly a kite.
Leave her out of it. I hope Faith is smart enough to move forward. But we're gonna come back tomorrow because it's getting late. We're gonna
Yeah.
talk about the other way that came on tonight. There were some good scenes tonight with Sean and Joanne and the kiddies and Bella. Smart. I think the smartest kid of all the kids were Bella. So yeah, we're gonna come back tomorrow. We're gonna talk about that, and then we're gonna try to do a podcast on the first 2 episodes of I Love a Mama's Boy. I don't know if we're gonna do a live or if we're gonna pre-record it. I'll text you. So we can figure that out. But make sure you're following my co-host Gina. She's tagged in this video. Hopefully Kara's feeling better. She told me she was gonna try to go back to work today. I haven't heard, but she had 0 voice last night at all. So hopefully she's feeling better. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at George Mossey, GeorgeMossey.com. Anyway, the podcast, type in the George Mossey Show. Oh, and the Shabuti and George Mossey podcast is up. The link is in my bio. So if you guys, we did a podcast last night that went up today. So if you guys missed that podcast, it's the Shabuti podcast with me and him. That's on Spotify and Apple Music. So check that out. And then this podcast will be up on Spotify and Apple Music later tonight. Everybody have a wonderful night. We'll talk to all you guys tomorrow.
Night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.